What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. He is Kevin Reynolds. I am Bobby Wall, and we are here to talk all things football and hit you with some takes that might rattle you up a bit. On tonight's show, we are going to spend our time recapping the weekend that was for the 2024 NFL Draft, what we loved, what we hated. But first, Kevin, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well, champ. 86 degrees here today, out on the tennis courts quite a bit, getting a little tan. Somehow a little windstorm came through and I wasn't there and destroyed two of my umbrellas. Not real happy about that. But what are you going to do? Nothing wrong with going and having to blow another $150 on umbrellas. So other than that, man, good. I'll also note here, this is episode 1 of season 3.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, our first broadcast was right after the draft.
I didn't even know. How about that? Have you ever went to bed at night and thought, wow, nothing went wrong today?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay.
It's rare.
Yeah, I can tell. Oh man.
Well,
So
Bobby, these umbrellas are large and they cost a good bit of money.
I hear you.
And I
I
don't know
hear you.
where they came from. When I left at 2, they were perfectly fine. There wasn't a shred of wind in the air. I could have went and there'd have been more wind than there was. I get back at about 4:30. Guess what? Still no wind anywhere. But my umbrellas are ripped to shreds. One of them flew up over the fence out into the freaking parking lot.
I'm sorry about your
It's just a magical windstorm.
umbrella woes. So you and I are big fans of the TV show The Blacklist.
You
I
get that right.
texted you, was it like 2 days ago, and said, hey, I finally finished. I watched every episode. It's over now. And I know that's probably on your list, but what are some other TV shows that you would say are your favorite all
Well,
time?
we have genres. Are we going genres or just straight out?
Straight,
If you put me on
straight up
a desert
favorite.
island and said you can only ever have one show to watch the rest of your life, it'd be The Office. It's got everything.
Mm,
It's my favorite show. It's Alexandra, my daughter's favorite show. We pretty much have every show memorized.
that
So that
is
would be number
certainly
1.
on my list.
Seinfeld, I watch endless reruns of Seinfeld.
Also on my list.
Blacklist, I love Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon are some really good ones. Uh, as you know, I've mentioned on here many times, I don't really watch a lot of TV, but I do watch some.
It's much
That's such a spontaneous question. I'm trying to think of some other things that I really
it's
loved.
it's much easier.
24, Jack Bauer, he was dreamy.
I forgot about that one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Um, did you ever see The Designated Survivor?
No, but I heard it. I heard it's decent.
Yeah, decent. What about House of Cards?
Never saw it.
That's another. It got a little strange for me after a while. I had to stop that one. Um, Walking Dead was a big one for me.
Yeah.
I stopped though. I'm probably I had the last two or maybe even 3 seasons. The first several though was fantastic. I'm with you though on The Office and Seinfeld.
I
Another
recently
one.
finished Sherlock.
Yeah, how's that?
Awesome, amazing. It's one of those ones that you have a very difficult time stopping watching.
Really,
Yeah.
I have to look into that. An underrated one for me was it's called The 100. I feel like it's right, not real popular. Something about it I got hooked on. I don't know what. I'm not sure that the show itself got great reviews. I have no idea, but something about it got me hooked in. I think I bought into the characters and I was into the story. It's about there's a big nuclear war on the planet, so a whole bunch of folks go up into outer space on a big spaceship, and after 100 or after I don't know how many years, but they sent 100 prisoners from their ship down to Earth just to see if it was livable. And they find out that it is. People are still down here, and it's just like a whole survival type thing in a new world.
Yeah. How about
Yeah,
Jack Reacher? That's good stuff.
the TV show is excellent.
Yes, yes.
Only 2 seasons though, and it's
Well,
newer,
that's
so
all
I
there
didn't
is
have
so far. But
right.
so this guy apparently wrote like 56 Jack Reacher books, and every
False,
season just based on
false,
one of the books.
false.
How many did he write then? I don't know.
28 or 29, I believe, because I have all of them and I've read
Okay.
them all. probably
Okay.
3 times. That's
Well,
my
then it's
favorite
still
book.
a lot, so they could
Oh yeah.
potentially do this forever, except eventually, what is it, Alan Richmond, is that his name? Is that
I know the newest one that I
is
have.
that the
I
mountain
mean,
guy
I
that
don't know if it's the newest one or. Oh, you mean the
that
actor? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
plays, yeah.
Sorry.
Eventually, he probably, if he's like 60 years old, it probably wouldn't work out quite the same. But I love that show.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. All right, you ready to get into this draft
Do you
stuff,
like Monk?
dude?
We love Monk.
The idiosyncrasies were too much for me.
Gotcha.
OCD
I'm
stuff,
just
and
trying to think of some different things that we like if reruns come on, we always end up watching it. Just
I'm a big Modern Family guy. I like Modern Family.
yeah, I'd never watched that.
Get a good laugh every now and then. So last episode, I hinted and teased a deep dive into wide receivers and hit rates. We're gonna have to put that off maybe enough till next week because we got a lot to cover with this draft. So I'm gonna do it alphabetical order. Is that cool with you?
By teams or names or
Yeah, yeah. Like Arizona will be first.
fine with me there, homie.
Awesome. So for me, I thought Arizona had a pretty darn good draft. They had a lot of picks, but they didn't screw it up. They had a lot of talent with those picks, at
They
least
did.
in, as far as I'm concerned. Marvin Harrison Jr., pick number 4, no brainer. They didn't screw it up. Good for you. You see a lot of people not liking the Darius Robinson pick at, what was it, 27.
Yes.
I don't mind it. They need edge help. He's a big, strong guy. A lot of people think he's more of a second rounder, but you
Yeah,
know,
but 27th pick and it's your
right,
second first rounder, that practically
exactly,
is the second round.
right, exactly. I loved the Max Melton pick, cornerback from Rutgers, very solid player, and then Trey Benson, man, for a team that needs a running back, not necessarily right away because James Conner's still there, but you let Trey Benson come in every third series, third downs, 2 minute drill kind of guy, and he can really do something for you.
Yeah.
And then even Tip Ryman, the tight end from Illinois, dude, he's like a Darnell Washington type. He's a monster, 6'5", 270. He's athletic, but they didn't use him a lot in the passing game in college, but definitely a big time blocker for them.
Yeah. As you know, I idolize Mel Kiper. And because, we've been listening to him since we were kids. Arizona is one of the only 2 teams that he gave a solid A grade to.
That's correct.
And it
Yep.
was great. The biggest thing is the guy at the top is a guy that could be a Pro Bowler for the next 12 years, if not an All Pro for the next 12 years. And depth, depth, depth from a team that had none. I don't know how they could have done a whole lot better here.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And like the Darius Robinson, another thing that I talked about when we went over that position, breaking down the draft classes, if they want to play outside, he can. If they want to bump him down into defensive tackle, then he can do
Yeah.
that too. He's big enough to do that. So
And you
I don't
get
mind
Trey
that.
Benson as like a bonus on you still have what's his name? What's the dude? Connor. And you get Trey
James
Benson at
Conner.
the start of the third round, who for a lot of people had him as their number 1 back.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
mean,
They
this
got him
is
what?
this is quite the haul, but we'll see how it goes now because all this is going to rely on is Kyler Murray serious about becoming an NFL quarterback, or is Fallout 6 going to be more important to him? That's another
Uh,
one. People keep telling me I need to watch Fallout.
I yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
They say it's great. It's
I don't
just
know anything about it,
awesome.
so I
Me
can't
either.
comment. Atlanta, you
Oh,
go
do we
ahead
have to
and how
talk
about
about them?
yeah, you start.
So I'm really today, I actually searched. I must have looked at 10, 12 different recaps of the draft. Just trying find anybody that says anything positive about this draft. Nobody. Not a single one. The best grade I've seen from anybody is a C, clear down to an F minus. What the hell's an F minus? You can't take luxury picks when you suck. That doesn't make
I'll,
any sense. So you take Penix at 8, almost like just to be a splash, because you just gave $100 million 4 years guaranteed to the guy that's supposed to be the savior of your club. You're in the worst division of football. All you need is maybe 2 decent defensive players to win this division at 10-7. So let's go pick a quarterback who essentially is 24, and then the GM comes out and says, well, if he sits for 4 years, no big deal. He's going to be 28 years old by the time he maybe sees the field. We know that's not going to happen, but how does it make any sense? Please make it make sense to me.
So I'm going to here in just a second.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to. I think you're going
I'll
to
well,
try, but I
yeah,
think I'm going to
that's
scoff at you. At best, I'll
I'll
scoff.
it'll be an attempt. Um, would you say, and I'm, because you texted me right away. Most people, myself included, I would say the feeling that I had when they made that pick, Penix at number 8, was surprise, shock. I feel like, at least with your text, you sent me anger.
Yeah, I was so
I feel
pissed.
like you went right past everything to just anger. So mad at Atlanta for screwing that up.
It just makes no sense to me. He's like taking a pick like that, such a high draft pick, using it as a luxury pick for a guy we don't even know if he's ever going to even amount to anything. After you just basically sold half your team to Kirk Cousins, when all these not a single defensive player going, you had your pick of the litter, every single one. I just can't get. And the owner himself, Arthur Blank, comes on and says he was almost taken aback by it, like that they didn't even bother to let Cousins know first, and he's not sure why this all happened. Like
Well,
I want anybody to make it make sense, but nobody I find can make it make sense.
before we get to Penix, even their next pick, Rook Orororo from Clemson,
Yeah.
defensive tackle, that was a reach. Braylon Trice in the third is probably about where he should have gone. I wasn't a big fan of him on tape. Then Brandon Dorless from Oregon, another defensive tackle. That was a fine pick, I think. But dude, all right,
And they traded up to
Penix,
get Oro.
right? I
Just taking
know.
away any chance at getting high value depth. It's just who's running this team?
Do you know who went the very next pick after Orororo?
I'd have to look because I no, I don't have all.
Johnny Newton, my favorite defensive
Yes,
line in
yeah.
the
So
draft.
like I said, I wish I
Yeah,
could make any sense of this, but I can't.
yeah.
You
So I
the
I
best
was
player you
on.
picked isn't even going to be on the field.
Yeah, All right. So I looked at. I had heard someone mention something on SiriusXM radio about Kirk Cousins' contract, and I went. I think they misspoke. They were saying that the Falcons can get out of the Kirk Cousins deal with a post June 1st trade in 2025. The way I'm looking at Spot Rack right now, it makes it look like they may have been a year short and where it may have to be 2026. So
Yeah, I think that's.
a
But even if they
June,
do, still 100 million guaranteed. It doesn't make sense,
right? Well,
especially if he's winning.
yeah,
If he's
but 100
winning,
million
why would
guaranteed,
Penix ever see the field?
correct. But if Penix can sit for a year or two, they can trade Cousins and get something. And if they're that high on Penix, if they think Penix is the future and their franchise quarterback, and they go out and they, take him at 8 and they trade Cousins after 2 years, I kind of get it. I mean, if they think Penix is the next Matt Ryan for that franchise, now they're obviously very different players. I'm just saying Matt Ryan was a franchise quarterback for a decade or more. Then I get it.
I don't.
I don't see
Still
Penix as being
stupid.
that, but I'm
That's
just
a lot of
trying.
that's a lot of ifs you had to throw in there to
Oh
try
yeah,
to make that work. And
I
I
can't
agree.
imagine.
If Kirk Cousins spontaneously combusts this July and just burns to ashes, and Penix goes in and throws for 693 yards and 7 touchdowns in week 1, they'll look like geniuses.
It
Okay,
was
yeah,
still
that's
bad.
right, but this is just stupid. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. By now they have to know it. Uh
They're going to need to get lucky for this to be a good pick.
Yeah, that actually they'll have to have bad luck for this to be a good pick for him to even get on the field. It's either going to be
That's
Kirk Cousins got drastically injured or they start off 1-7 and they have to put him in.
very true.
It's
All right.
just crazy. They're got to pay him a lot of money. You go number 8, you're getting paid
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of money. I don't
Oh
know if
for sure.
there's maybe a team in the league that's invested more money in their quarterbacks than
I don't know if
Atlanta
you
now.
mentioned this, just now on the show, or if it was just when we were speaking yesterday or whenever it was. But you said, if he sits on the bench for the guy's gonna be 30 years old before he
Yeah,
sees the field.
because he's not young. He turns 24
Right,
next month.
right.
He's not one of these like 20-year-old projects.
All right.
And I wonder how he feels. This guy going into the draft must have thought him, his agent, his family, everybody and their mother, us, were pretty convinced this guy's going to be a starter week 1.
Yeah. Well,
Not no mo. Now he's going to be sitting the freaking bench for 2 to 3 years. So I wonder what he's thinking. Like, okay, I'm getting a lot of money, but it's going to be a
right.
lot of money to hold a clipboard. Who
Best job
wants
on earth.
that?
The best job in sports is backup quarterback.
And it's going to be really good here because, like I said, you go 8, you're getting a hefty payload
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah. All right. Your Ravens.
Woo!
First notes I typed. Everyone drops to them. How does it happen every year? I'm not a big fan of Wiggins, which you guys took in the first. You like him more than me.
That's
I
correct.
think he's too slight.
He's
But
already
then
put on 10 pounds.
Roger Rosengarten, who some people thought might make it sneak into the end of the first round, if not, definitely early second. He goes at the end of the second for you. Then you get
Yes.
Adisa Isaac, who was on the same team as Chop Robinson and had more production than Chop Robinson. And then Tez Walker in the
Yeah.
fourth.
And TJ
20,
Tampa, who a few months
that's the
ago,
one,
back of the first round, early second round, they get him at 130.
dude.
So, yeah,
He
it's,
could have. If you told me he went pick 36, I'd be like, that might be a little bit of a reach, but I get it. I
yeah.
can see that. I would laugh at you if you told me that he went 130. Like, no way. But Marty Lassiter went at 42. If you told me that Houston would have taken TJ Tampa instead of Kamari Lassiter, another corner, I would believe you. Or Max
I know.
Melton, who went
So
right the very next pick.
I was looking today at I found a cool thing about draft capital over expectation. Your Eagles ended up 5th, Ravens ended up 7th, meaning getting these
Yeah, yeah.
bargains of guys getting them much lower than what the consensus was they would go. Guess who was last?
Atlanta.
You got that right. But Detroit was number 1. So you're right. So once
Really?
again, your guys, my guys, outside the Jalen Rager thing, the Eagles draft about as well as the Ravens do. My thought again, though, and I told you this immediately because you get all mad at this, all I write is that equates to 0 Super Bowls. So who gives
Right.
a crap? Again, this is just
I think
paper. It's a lot of regular season wins that I don't give two craps about. I
yeah.
don't care if you go as the 1 seed or 7 seed.
Where,
If
where
you
was
go
Pittsburgh
in
on
and
that
run
list?
5 rushing plays, you're going to lose. What's
Where was
that?
that Pittsburgh? Where was Pittsburgh on that list?
4.
Yeah.
Detroit, Miami, Kansas City, the rich get richer,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Philly, New Orleans, Ravens.
All right. Buffalo. Keon Coleman. They traded out of the first round, or they traded back and then took Keon Coleman. It was funny because they traded back with the Chiefs. So you help your rival. Chiefs step in and take Xavier Worthy. Um, good for them. He's not for me. If I was Buffalo, I wouldn't take him either. I
Yeah.
also wouldn't have taken Keon Coleman. But then they got a defense tackle Dwayne Carter. He was a 3-time captain at Duke. Good pick, solid pick there. And in the fourth round, they took running back Ray Davis from Kentucky. That some people were really high on. I think Daniel Jeremiah. He was like a top 3 running back in this class
Yeah.
for Daniel Jeremiah. So he's a bigger guy, a banger. Should be a good compliment to James Cook. But once again, it's still like they won't let James Cook be the guy.
So the thing I don't get, and you wrote to this at one point, like you seem personally invested in AD Mitchell. How did he fall clear to 52? And I don't mind Keon Coleman. I don't think he's going to be a bad player. I don't think he's worth going there. But why was he getting passed on? All these guys like Pope. Well, Pope shouldn't have gone where he went. I take McConkey over Coleman. I don't understand why you wouldn't want AD Mitchell. The Colts got a steal there.
Oh, dude, I agree. I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to the Colts, but
Are they like trying to force Josh Allen into the ground, or are they trying to make him prove that he actually it isn't always the receivers, that it's been him? I don't understand the logic here unless they know something we don't about some trade they're going to have.
yeah, man, I got nothing on that, man. Look, AD Mitchell was my number 4 receiver in this class. I loved him to death. I starting with the pick 27, I think with the Cardinals is when I started texting you and was like, AD Mitchell, Is this where it goes?
Yeah.
AV Mitchell? Nope. Nope.
Drop,
And
drop,
then he
drop,
just
drop,
kept falling.
drop.
Yep.
So maybe these teams found something out that the press did not find out about. That's
Yeah.
a big
Right.
fall. He was a guy that we had him our mock. We had to go at the end of the first round.
Mhm. All right. Carolina, they're doing their best to give Bryce Young some weapons,
They
which you got
sure
to
are.
do. Xavier Legette, your guy, they traded up into the last
I'm
pick
dreamy.
um, of the first round to grab him. Running back Jonathan Brooks, the first running back off the board. They actually traded up for Brooks, if my memory serves me
They
correctly.
did.
And then was it the fourth round or so? They take tight end Jatavion Sanders from Texas. So they're doing what they can, but I mean, they didn't have a whole lot of draft capital.
Part of the problem is they don't have an offensive line, and they did
Yeah.
nothing to address that.
Well, they did
So
they did some work in free agency.
yeah, some, but I don't know. With some of the guys that were out there still at that point, like trading up that far just to get Jonathan Brooks, when there was probably
Sure.
some really solid offensive line help there. I don't know. All those you know it. All those weapons don't mean much if quarterback doesn't have more than 2 seconds to do anything.
Oh, absolutely. Um,
I think they're going to struggle. I think they'll be picking very high
well,
again next year.
oh yeah, for sure. Chicago, what things bother me a little bit is people saying how great of a draft Chicago had, and then they talk about Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. Well, Caleb Williams was no brainer. There was zero
Yeah,
work done there. I mean, not zero work done, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's not like anyone fell to them. They didn't make an incredible pick. That was the pick 3 months ago. And then Rome Odunze, how many times did you see him mocked at 9 to Chicago? It wasn't exactly. I mean, I guess they didn't screw it up, but I didn't see them doing anything fantastic to have this great draft. They drafted a punter, Corey Taylor from Iowa. And did you see the
I
text that
can't
Caleb
wait.
Williams
Can't wait till
sent
he has
him?
60 punts. It's
Did
going
you
to be so
see?
awesome.
Did you see the
Can't wait.
text?
Can't wait.
Caleb Williams
Yep.
texted the punter that got drafted. Said, "You aren't going to punt
Can't
much."
wait. Running his mouth before he's even seen the field.
I like that though. I like it.
I
I don't
don't.
like Caleb Williams, but I
I would
like that.
like it if I thought he was doing it even remotely in jest, like being silly, but I'm 99.8% sure he really thinks he's going to step in and just take the NFL by storm, and literally he'll have 15 punts on the season.
We'll
That
see.
said, do they have the greatest 1, 2, 3 punch a wide receiver group in NFL history?
I don't.
You've got three guys who could be potential first team all pro type guys.
I'm sure that answer. I'm guessing that answer is no, but we certainly have to look into it. Oh wait, how about the greatest show on turf? They had Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, and Azahir Hakim, right? Isn't that his
Well,
name?
yeah, but
Azahir
Hakeem was
Hakim.
probably four. Ricky Prohl was three.
Okay.
But still, that's pretty impressive. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. The
Yeah.
old Redskins when they had Gary Clark,
Art Monk.
Art Monk, and Ricky Sanders. That was a pretty
That
good group.
ooh, that was a good one.
I don't know. I'm just saying that's pretty. And these three guys,
Oh
DJ
yeah.
Moore, Keenan Allen, and now Rome Odunze.
Oh
Lord,
yeah.
Lord, how do you game plan for that?
I saw now if you count Rome Odunze's receiving yards from college, it was like Rome had 1650-ish. One of them had like 13. DJ Moore had like 12 or 1300, and then Keenan Allen had 11 or 1200.
Yeah,
It's like 5,000 receiving yards between these
it's
three
crazy,
guys.
dude. So if this
Cincinnati,
dude if this dude fails, he can't blame it on anybody but himself because he has got one heck of a lineup all around him.
sure. Cincinnati, they took big guys early. They took Mims, the big offensive tackle, and two defensive tackles in the first four picks. The other one was wide receiver Jermaine Burton, who's good from Alabama, but he's got some off-field stuff and angry on-field stuff. They had 10 total draft picks, and they drafted 8 different positions. They were really just hitting all of the spots on the field that they could. No big standouts for me with Cincinnati.
No, they hit a little bit of what they needed. The
Yep.
wide receiver was definitely a stretch when you still had Troy Franklin out there,
Yeah,
Jalen
dude.
McMillan
I
out
can't wait to
there.
get to him.
A little bit weird. I don't think they got significantly better. I don't think they blew it either. Solid, like B minus B type draft. I like it because the division, the Steelers draft, when we get to them, was just
Yeah,
it
I
might
know.
actually be my favorite, just barely edging out the Eagles.
It's up there. Cleveland, ho hum. They didn't get any big time names, but they didn't have a first. They only had two picks. They didn't have any first rounders. I don't know, solid starter or two maybe, but
This is
ho
one of
hum.
those drafts that 2 years from now, we maybe have never hear any of these people's names again.
I mean, they had two picks in the first four
Yeah,
rounds
they're
and
still
20
paying
picks.
for that trade.
Yeah,
But
I think it's done now
everything's will
though.
be reset. They're sort of reset again next year. But
Which would be
this
great.
was an uninspiring draft for them. But like I said, they didn't exactly have a lot of draft capital. It's hard to put together too much.
All right,
I don't think it really would have mattered either way. Their whole season comes down to what Deshaun Watson can do.
one. Yeah, good luck with that. One of the most confusing teams for me in this draft were the Dallas Cowboys. Two offensive linemen in the first three picks. I get it. And a solid but not flashy edge player, Marshawn Nealon from Western Michigan. I think he'll be solid. I don't know if he'll ever make a Pro Bowl, but he's going to be a good player, I
Yeah,
think. They didn't make a single splash pick in no running backs.
it's almost like the splash for Jerry now is not splashing.
Now they
We
signed
talk
Zeke.
about it. We still talk about them because we talk about them not splashing, which has now become the splash.
Is that it?
Maybe it's like
Is he
he's being out
purposely not
Jerry'd.
splashing?
And like people moving in front of them, taking these running backs that they were stupid enough to say they were eyeing. That's the stuff he used to do to other teams. It's almost like the game, unfortunately, passed him by. Because I'll be honest, the NFL needs Jerry. He's one of the last old guard guys who actually challenges the commissioner, challenges the union. The league needs him. But maybe he could just hire a GM and let them take care of business.
They didn't draft a running back, okay? So instead they go out and they sign Ezekiel Elliott, bring him back.
Yeah,
How many NFL teams, if they sign Zeke right now, would he immediately be their running back one?
none.
But he is in Dallas.
Yeah, he will be, and they'll overuse him.
Right. What are we doing? How do you not take a running back somewhere?
I
You,
don't know. Maybe
nowhere
there's
in this.
still a fair amount of guys out there free agency, but none of them are guys that would immediately go in and start on any team either. Most of them have already signed the guys that would do that, like your Swifts, those type guys. I don't know. Maybe he feels he doesn't need him. He's madly in love with Dak. Maybe he just feels Dak and CD Lamb can just do it all themselves.
Dude, have you heard of Kamani Vidal?
Never.
Running back out of Troy. He's a very good player. He went to the Chargers, and a lot of folks that I've been listening to and reading think he is vaulted into RB1 for
Oh,
that
that's the
team.
dude. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
reading that today, but
How about him, Dallas? What are we doing?
yeah, because I don't think he'll play nearly as much for the Chargers as they're letting on right now. Same with the new
Well,
dude
that's
in
yeah.
same with the new dude in Denver. Who was the guy that went to Denver that they were already saying, "Oh, he's an every down back," blah blah blah. He'll probably
Hold
see
on.
like 20% of carries this year.
Well, I- I'm glad you brought up Denver because here we are. Bo Nix at number 12. I told you so.
Stretch.
When all this thing started, I said it's very difficult for me personally to think Sean Payton's going to let Bo Nix go past him. However, after they got him, the Denver Broncos made the smartest draft pick in the entire 257 picks or whatever it was. And that was somehow Troy Franklin. He was your wide receiver four,
Yep.
a fringe first round pick. Something's up that we don't know because
Yeah.
he dropped all the way to the fourth
Yeah, because that's not a
round,
slide. That's just a straight free fall.
free fall. That's a TJ Tampa move right there.
Yes. Like
So
like 80 spots below where we thought he'd go.
if you
90
want,
spots.
right, if you want your rookie quarterback to succeed, what do? Get that man his wide receiver one in college,
Yep.
and they did it. Both Oregon Ducks. Oh my gosh, they made that pick. I was at the gym. I never stopped working out. I don't mess with my phone. Nothing. I stopped working out and called you from the gym
Yeah.
because I watched them make that pick.
So was it,
Oh,
and I actually didn't see it at the moment, but as soon as I read your thing, I knew what it must have been, and I looked and saw. Um, so McGrogan, was it you or him that said he'll have a better season in Sutton?
John McGrogan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the problem with that is we know Sun is going to get anywhere from 12 to 17 points every single game all year. So I'll buy what he's
Uncanny.
selling because these guys have a rapport. But Franklin's going to, he's going to have some lower games. He's going to have a couple of those mid 20s,
Yep.
high 20s games to keep up with Cortland Sutton's 12 to 17 every single week.
That's right. All right. Aldrich Estime from Notre Dame. That's the running back.
Oh, yeah, I like him.
Yeah, he wasn't
I
big for
remember
me.
we actually talked about him. I like him because he
Yeah,
looks like he could knock some people over.
yeah, that's right.
But they're
Detroit
not going to Javante Walker's. Well, they're not going to just
Williams.
Williams. Sorry, they're not going to just throw him to the waste. Although my Sean Payton seems like he's an idiot now. I used to think he was a brilliant coach. Now I think he is a product of Drew Brees and just
Well, they
trying
also
to
have
prove to everybody he's some kind of genius that he's not.
Jaleel McLaughlin. He flashed last year, as did, and they still have Samaje Perine. So they have four capable backs, or three and a half. We don't know what his teammate's going to be. So that'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Detroit traded up in the first round for Terrion Arnold, who I don't know how these cornerbacks fell in the first round, but
Yeah.
awesome pick there. And then they backed that up with another borderline first round cornerback, and this Rakestraw. Questionable pick for me was the offensive tackle out of British Columbia. I can't off the top of my head, I can't remember his name, but I thought that was a bit of a stretch in
Manu.
the Manu in the fourth round. I mean, he's got traits, but we're a long way from him seeing playing time. I tell you, one of my other picks that I liked from them was Utah safety Sion Vaki. This dude might be a running back. So he played both ways at times at Utah, which was pretty cool. And I mean, you want to talk about a Dan Campbell kind of guy, versatile, tough. It's just what a great fit for him there in Detroit.
So not talking about a whole draft. If I'm breaking down these drafts, there's two teams that I felt were A pluses in hitting the one thing that they by far needed the most, more than any other team. Like we were just said, we don't care. I don't care if Barry Sanders is there at the 29th pick in the second round. We're taking a corner anyway. Eagles, Lions. They're just
They
like,
did the
this is
same
what we
thing.
need. This is what we're taking. We don't care who else is there. We are getting this position taken care of. And these guys, they're both tacklers. They're badass corners. They aren't just the Dion type that just shy away from everything. This, to me, I will be most likely, barring anything crazy happening the rest of the year, they will be my preseason number one first seed in the NFC. And I know that's not a
I
stretch anyway.
like
They
that.
made the NFC Championship
Yeah.
game. But man, like I told you during this, if they had these guys last year, San Fran might not have made it to the Super Bowl.
Arnold was my QB or my cornerback one.
Yeah.
I
Then you
loved him.
get Ray Straw clear at the end of the second. I mean, you could get rid of the other four guys, and I would still love this draft just for the Lions because they were, I think I read 29th in the league pass defense.
And that's it just depends on what you value, right? Do you value best player available, or do you value your need? And sometimes if the need is bad enough, you can go the route that you
Well,
said, where
especially
it
when
doesn't
you
matter who
were
was there.
right, you're top four in the NFL. Their offense, it's not a need. They've got a top five wide receiver, a quarterback who's rejuvenated his career. He's probably a top 10 guy now. People can say he's not just to be jerks, but if you look at the stats, he probably is top 10 dude. You've got this up and coming. Well, actually, I guess he ended up the number one. Did he end up the number one uh tight end this year, didn't he?
In fantasy, Sam Laporta,
Yeah,
yes.
he ended up number one. So you got that. So you've got all these pieces on, and then you have this running back who we made fun of them last year for taking him, and he ends up being probably the most explosive player in the freaking league, Jameer Gibbs. So, man, they hit the one thing that really cost them last year. This could be a tipping point. I love it because you know me, and you too. We love Detroit. If it's not your Eagles or my Ravens winning the Super Bowl, I want it to be the Lions.
Absolutely. They gave up the sixth most passing yards last year.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
If you can
4,200.
cut that down to like top 12, they're going 13-4.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Green Bay. Dude, I think that they may have had the best first 3 rounds of any team. So you just if we're just looking at day one, day two, man, they attacked needs and they did so with great players. I
Yeah.
thought Jordan Morgan, their tackle in the first round, was an underrated, versatile lineman. They put him anywhere they want to. Then they take Edgerrin Cooper, who some people are kind of wishy-washy, hot and cold on this pick. A lot of people had him as the best off-ball linebacker in the draft. Javon
Yes.
Bullard.
Our boy does. Yeah, Mel Kiper has him at
Yeah.
1, and Javon
And
Bullard
speaking,
is the number 1 safety.
I was just getting ready to say, Bullard's the guy who knocked Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the playoff game 2 years ago that helped Georgia win that
Well, he wrecked him.
go into the
That was a
national title game
that
and
was a
win that.
wicked hit. That's one of those ones you remember.
Yeah. Josh Jacobs, they signed him in the offseason. He's got a good year or two left. They're lately, especially 2 years ago with the Raiders, they put a lot of carries on his body. And the Green Bay takes Marshawn Lloyd, who was my running back 1 this year. I don't love Lloyd's landing spot. I don't love it for Lloyd, but I love it for Green Bay. Right? I
I
think it
love it
hurts
for them in
Lloyd's.
2 years
Correct.
because
Correct.
right now, unfortunately, for whatever reason, AJ Dillon is still going to get carries
Yeah, gosh, don't. They
just
uh
because
they
they
started
like
with
to get
11 picks.
2.7 yards a play.
They started, yeah, correct. They started with 11 picks. They ended with 11 picks. The only critique I have is they're they're up there in the NFC North. I mean, they're fighting. It's going to be tough to unseat Detroit, but they got a wild card
Telling you, they
within
might be
reach.
the best division in football now.
Right. So why not? You got 11 picks. Why not package some of those picks to move up and get some more high quality players? Because they did have a ton of needs and they really hammered them in the first couple rounds. So, but that's a small critique.
Yeah. I don't know. It was good. Most pundits have them in the top 5, 6, 7 of draft class here. Uh, yeah, who knows? I mean, if they can keep their receivers on the field, I can't see them not making the playoffs. This could be the thing the SC North had last year, where they almost had all 4 teams make the playoffs. That could happen.
Yeah. The Houston Texans, their draft didn't do a whole lot for me. I wanted it to, and I tried to stretch it and make it think, I really love it, but eh. Solid players again,
When you
but
don't have a first round draft pick,
tough.
it's very hard to look at a draft class and say, "Wow, that was stellar."
But it's also how you have the players ranked. For instance, when they took Kamari Lassiter, Kool-Aid McKinstry was still on the board, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. So, like, if they take Kool-Aid McKinstry there, now I'm thinking, okay, well, because I really liked Kool-Aid. He was my
yeah.
what?
Kool-Aid
One,
went to pick before Lassiter.
oh, oh,
One
did he
pick
go to
ahead
pick before? Okay, but
to to the Saints.
okay, okay. So, well, I guess that's out of there. But and you look at the corners after that, a lot of them, like Max Melton, is he going to be a true outside corner? Or is he going to be a slot corner? Same with
Yeah.
Mike Sanders still, that awesome player, but is he going to be an outside guy? So I don't know. I guess they could have taken TJ Tampa there, to be honest with you. I would have rather Rakestraw. There we
Yeah,
go.
I was
We
gonna say
found
Ray Straw. Most people had
yeah.
Ray Straw 1, 2, 3 spots ahead of him, even just in cornerbacks.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? If Philly doesn't trade up, they might have Cooper DeJean.
Maybe. Yeah, because
I tell you, one of my
it was him, Kool-Aid, Lassiter, right? Back to back to back.
yeah, one pick I did like though is Cade Stover, tight end. Who is Cade Stover's quarterback in college?
Well, he went to Ohio State, so
CJ Stroud, baby.
obviously it was CJ Stroud, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was a good pick.
Yeah,
Um,
towards the end of the fourth round
yeah,
with what's his name down there? I think he
Dalton Schultz,
just signed a
2 years
small,
maybe.
yeah, an extension, but he's no spring chicken. So
Oh,
he can
right.
come in, learn from him, and be the future at the position for him.
That is correct. Is I'm looking at the yeah, they have Dalton Schultz through 2026. So just
Yeah.
well, it's 3 years, but they can get out of it next after next year. So
Well, they
anyway,
won't need to. It doesn't hurt to have a young guy as a
sure.
backup or get them both on
Indianapolis
the
Colts.
field.
No team had the first 2 picks that I enjoyed more. I'm not saying these are the best first 2 picks, but my absolute favorite. They took Leatu Latu as the first defensive player off the board. We were 14 picks in the draft, not a single defensive player. You and I called that. And then they take, oh, and just for the record, he was taken before Dallas Turner, as
Before every
I mentioned,
defensive player,
as I mentioned,
everybody.
should happen. And then they stopped the free fall for my man AD Mitchell. And after those two picks, I don't care what they did. I love their draft.
It was good. This was in the Baltimore Philly world of players just falling in their laps.
Yeah.
Like really? How did I guess we have to take this guy. Uh yeah, what can
They
we
could have
say?
taken Dallas Turner.
Like even Bortolini, where they got him, that wasn't bad. All these guys, this is a good draft in an awful division. And man, one of my preseason stretches, bold picks might be that Jacksonville ends up last in this division.
Oh, dude, speaking of bold predictions, and I wanted to bring this up and I forgot, so I'm glad you just said it. And so when you make a prediction, it feels great to come when it comes to
Oh,
fruition,
here we go.
right? Feels good.
Everybody get ready.
And then
Get your boots on.
then you make a bold prediction, and that really, really makes you feel good, right? Because
Lord.
bold predictions we don't actually expect to happen, but there's reason to believe maybe if all lines up, it could. You almost hit Tyreek Hill breaking the receiving record
I
as
did.
your
If he
bold
hadn't
prediction
gotten hurt,
last
I
year.
might have had it.
Right. I know. Look, and you're
Yeah.
smiling just thinking about almost getting it. See, that's how good it feels. And then there's just a little cherry on top when someone who really knows football and a friend of the show, John McGrogan, says there ain't a chance in this world that Michael Penix goes before JJ McCarthy, as was my bold prediction, and it happened. Oh man,
Well done, sir.
I can't wait till he hears this.
Well done.
All
Well
right,
done.
Jacksonville, one of maybe my least favorite drafts.
It was awful.
Brian Thomas Jr., I'm way low on him than everybody else. And then they take Mason Smith, defensive tackle, not exciting. And then tell me how you felt about their Jerry and Jones pick.
Oh my Lord, at that point. This dude, in almost anybody's projections, was in the like 30 to 35 range in corners. There's like 18 corners ranked above him when he was taken. What do they know that we don't? I mean, I know he went to Florida State. I know they got to probably see him a good bit in person. But what are we missing here? What do we not know about this guy that apparently Jacksonville does it, that they passed on all these other guys? And I can't stand Mason Smith for one reason only, because he has too many damn A's in his name.
Because it says
So freaking
MAA.
frustrating. When I first saw his name, I was like, I mean, really? We just have to add extra vowels so we can be different. It's just, I don't know why. It's things like that, I'm very OCD, so things like that really irritate me.
Well, that's not his fault.
But you talk about a whole draft class that outside of Brian Thomas, these other guys might not even be in the league in 5 years. I don't get any of this. Are they trying to lose? They met their needs, but they met their needs with a bunch of guys that they took a round ahead of where they should have went.
They took Jones 34 picks before TJ Tampa.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. It's
Yeah,
just
I'm with
so
you.
weird.
Yeah. And I know people love Kansas City's draft. They lost Willie Gay. They lost L'Jarius Sneed. Sneed is in the argument for top three, definitely top five corners in the league. And so I don't know why they didn't address it early in the draft. And I know Kingsley Suamatea from the
Yeah.
offensive tackle from BYU. He's a really solid player. He could find the field early, probably. And you always want offensive line, especially when you have, Patrick Mahomes back there. Xavier Worthy, we mentioned first round pick, not my favorite. Wide receivers who run a 4.240 at the combine, it doesn't work out. It has literally never worked out with anyone.
The
Sure,
thing
there's
that's
a
odd
first.
well, they brought in Hollywood. Then now you
Yeah,
have Worthy, which, oh man, I went back and looked at him again the other day just for fun.
funsies.
He actually is a hell of a player. He's not just speed, but he also 2 years ago had the dropsies. You bring in Hollywood, who
Broken
drops
hand.
more balls than anybody in the freaking league. You already led the league in drops. You get rid of some guys that have drops. Your star wide receiver is going to probably be in prison. And now you're starting to wideouts will most likely lead the league in drops again. They did give Kelsey a big extension today. Well, 2 years, but for a boatload of money.
Yep.
I don't hate this. The thing is, when you're the Super Bowl champ 3 of the last 5 years, you most likely don't have a lot of needs.
And they took Jared Wiley, tight end at TCU, who's athletic in like the Travis Kelce mold, but
Yeah,
it's a fourth round tight end. It's not like you're banking on him to make an impact.
certainly not right away. No, he's not going to go out there and start taking Kelsey's looks away from him. I know. I don't think it's a bad draft. I don't think it's a great draft. I think you're the best team in the league. You got what some people think could end up being, at least fantasy wise, maybe the number one fantasy rookie next year. I don't think he will be. If Rice is going, maybe. But that honor goes to Harrison for me.
Oh yeah,
But I see what you're saying. This doesn't look on paper to be anything amazing, but did it need to be?
true. You know what? That's a good point. If we're looking at just the draft in a vacuum, not my favorite, but that's a very good point on your part. Did it need to be?
Right.
No. The Chargers, dude, I like their draft, man.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Alt, they just didn't screw it up, right? They take all at five, the best tackle in the class. They take Lad McConkey, who's a great route runner. They just lost Keenan Allen, also a great route runner. McConkey can do Keenan Allen stuff. Obviously, they were going to get at least one Michigan player, Junior Colson, linebacker. The Chargers could make every single draft pick a defensive player for the next 3 seasons, and they probably still need some defensive help.
And it's
Um,
funny because they have some names, they just don't gel as a unit.
right. And dude, listen, I understand Brendan Rice is not anything like his dad, Jerry. But when
He
I
should, he should have went
when
way
when
before
I
seventh
when I
round.
watch Caleb Williams film, and that maybe there's something about Rice, I don't know. When I watch Caleb Williams film, I kept thinking, who is this guy he's throwing to? Who is this guy? And finally I looked up, I'm like, oh, it's Brendan Rice. Of course this guy's talented. I don't
Yeah.
know. He is far more talented in the seventh round, I thought.
Most I don't know. I a lot of mocks I saw had him going like the top like 120, going in the first 4 rounds, like their 15th to 20th ranked receiver. Somehow he falls clear down to the fifth pick of the seventh round.
You think some of these guys like Brendan Rice here and TJ Tampa, like the guys, you know how when you're in a fantasy draft and you know you're going through it and you look up, like you've scratched a bunch of names off, and you look above those names,
And all of a
and
sudden
there's
there's
one of
one,
the
the
and you're like,
squiggly
wait,
line
this
just barely touches, so you never notice that it was
yeah,
actually
like,
never taken.
this guy's still here, and you're looking at they're still on the board. What? I
It's
don't
really
even need
weird.
another, I don't even need a receiver, but I'll
The
take
dude
him. You
doesn't
know
even
what I
need to
mean?
leave town. He's just
That's
there. Dude,
keeps the same apartment,
that could be a huge thing for them. Yeah, he's not
right?
going to put up his dad's numbers, that's for sure. But to
No,
get him in the seventh round when
yeah.
no, I
Um,
like their draft. I don't love it. They're getting a lot of crap for it, actually. People saying, "Oh, you had all this draft cal, you had all this, you had all that. You're going to completely ruin Justin Herbert." I don't think so.
wow, I don't either. Uh, like I said, I
I think
really
this
like them.
draft makes them no front runner, but makes them one of those teams in AFC now that could really throw a wrench into things.
Oh yeah, we didn't. I know I mentioned Kamani Vidal earlier, but hey, there he is, running back.
Yeah,
Gus Edwards is old and beat up. J.K. Dobbins is
he's
not
always
old, but
one carry away from the season
unbelievably beat
being
up.
over. The thing is, the numbers those two put up, like I think over the last 3 years, those two lead the NFL along with Keaton Mitchell and guys that have had at least like 50 carries. The three of
Yards
them
per
lead
carry.
the NFL in yards per carry,
Yeah.
with Keaton Mitchell leading the way, then Dobbins, then Gus Edwards. But let's run 5 times in the AFC Championship game because that makes sense.
So I'm interested to see what you think about the Rams. I really like their first two picks, even though I'm not a big Jared Verse guy.
Yeah, I was going to say,
They
you're
need,
not a verse guy.
yeah, but they needed edge rush help, so they took him. I get it. A lot of people had him higher than this. And they took Braden Fisk, who you know how much I love him. He
Yes.
is a wrecking ball. Looks like a WWE guy in football pads on a field. So here's the my camp when it comes to teams and players is that I want versatility and I want variety. If I have Brandon Jacobs, I want Tiki Barber. If I have, what was it? The Eagles had LeGarrette Blunt and Aaron Sproles at the same
Yeah.
time, right? That's the kind of backfield that I want.
You don't want
However,
two running backs that are the exact same person?
right, you remember that whenever I was going over Blake Corum on our draft breakdown, I said I could not help but see Kyron Williams on film. And I looked up their draft profiles by Lance Zierlein, and it was almost a copy and paste, word
Yes.
for word, verbatim. So then we go, and I don't know how you feel. Do you want lightning and thunder? Do you want variance in your backfield, or you want to do like the quarterbacks, where you have uh, a Michael Vick type, so you get a Justin Fields type, so you just keep the same offense, call the same plays, no matter who's on the field. I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong, but I
At
kind of went different.
quarterback, I want the exact same person,
But
just
right,
guys
right.
put number two, because otherwise you
But
have to change the offense.
but what about running back?
Well, I was going to say, even at wide receiver, I want if my guy gets hurt, I want a guy that can go in that can run the same route tree, has pretty much the same speed, maybe not quite as much, or obviously he'd be the starter. Because otherwise you have to change the offense. Running back, I want differentiation because if the guy that is shifty and waiting for his spot, that's not working against whatever defense you're playing, whether they're running a 4-3-3-4, whatever. I want to have then the bruiser guy who doesn't need that. And I know it's just going to bullhead and get me 4.5 yards every carry. I want to have differentiation at running back because you don't have to change the whole offense for that guy. If anything, that you want to be able to change that out depending on what you're facing.
Okay, so you're in the similar mindset.
I'm in your boat. I don't want the same guy because you just now we're not now because there's only a running back out there at a time. Receivers, you got two, three, sometimes four of them out at a time, maybe even five. So this running back thing really matters. If they're all the same, defense coordinator only has to really scheme for style. They're not scheming against the
That's the
players.
point.
They're just
That's the
scheming
point right
against
there.
the
Yep,
style. And if they can shut down the one guy, well, guess what? The guy that's coming in every third series, they don't have to change anything because they're just shutting down that style of run.
that's why you give the ball to David Montgomery until they start stopping him, and all of a sudden here comes Jameer Gibbs around the outside.
100%. Or
That's
vice
it.
versa.
That's the argument I needed to hear, just to hammer that home. So Las Vegas, I can't decide if their first two picks were best player available or if they panicked,
No, they've
because
come out
obviously
and said best player available for Brock.
well, of course they did,
I
but
mean, he
they also
was.
didn't expect.
Nobody
Well, they
expected
also
him to
didn't
drop to
expect
13.
Penix to go 8, because
True.
if right, so if he doesn't go 8, they know there's three quarterbacks they could take if they had to,
Hmm.
right? But he went. Now they're down to 2. What happened? What do you mean he went at 8? All of a sudden, Roma Dunze goes, and then it's like, okay, well, let's get our stuff together and figure out what we're doing with these last two quarterbacks. Just kidding. Minnesota Vikings are on the clock. I took JJ McCarthy. Holy cow. Is Denver really going to take Bo Nix? I don't think they're going to do it. Denver Broncos, Bo Nix. What is happening? What he's like the
Yeah.
Jaguars GM in draft day. He doesn't know what's going on. And so it's like, well, who's the best player left? Brock Bowers. Okay, we'll take him because they could have gotten an offensive tackle there. They could have
Yeah.
got some edge rushers.
Dude,
Uh,
would
They have
you
Michael Mayer.
agree?
I love Michael Mayer. You love Michael Mayer.
Oh, yeah. I love the dude.
What now?
I want him
He's
really
going to
bad
run
this year.
two
Said
tight
they're
end
going to
sets.
run a lot of two tight end sets for the stash.
Okay,
Dude, would you
okay.
agree that most likely in every freaking locker room, every single management system, anything in the NFL, there's a mole on every team? There's
I'm
got to
sure.
be a mole always. Somebody that wants an extra grand to just give a quick text. So Denver comes out and says straight up, we wanted Bo Nix all along. We spent extensive time with him, this, that, the other, that they didn't care who was there. They were going to take Bo Nix. Did the Raiders really not know? I mean, no, I know we didn't know, but did the Raiders really not know that he was going to go?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. So they felt that yes, Brock Bowers is by far the best player left, so they felt they had to take him. Maybe they'll get rid of somebody here. I mean, I can't imagine they would. They've got quite an overall receiving core with those two fellas, and then you still got
Devontae
Devontae
Adams.
Adams and oh God, he's just in my head.
Uh,
The dude that came
it's
from New England had a bunch of touchdowns last year.
yeah. I always think it's Ken. I always think him and Kendrick Bourne are the same player because they were both for New England and they both look the same on the field, except um Kendrick Bourne smaller than. Why can't either of us think of it? You're
Jacoby
looking it up.
Myers.
There it is. Jacoby Myers.
It was in my
But
head already, and then I didn't say it quick enough.
I
Hmm.
do like the Jackson Powers Johnson pick
Oh yeah.
because he's a stud lineman, and the lineman that went after him, Zach Frazier, is less versatile than Jackson Powers Johnson. Patrick Paul, the tackle that Miami took, we'll get to that pick. Blake Fisher for Houston. Nope, nope, nope. Maybe Rosengarten I would take over him, but they couldn't have Rosengarten because he had to fall to the Ravens. That was already God had already put that one out there.
My
The
mom was
Ravens,
excited that I don't even know how they say his name. Is it Laube? What?
yeah, you choose because it doesn't matter what it actually is. You're just
But
gonna
my
say what
mom
you
was happy because he's running back from New Hampshire. My mom is from New Hampshire. So when he was picked, I
want.
told her and she was excited.
I like it. All right, Minnesota. Chop Robinson in the
Skip
first round.
Miami.
What'd I say?
Oh, you said Minnesota. So you're using
Sorry.
Miami's players. You just decide to call them a different
I just
city.
want to
Got
mix it up a little bit. Yes,
I
sorry.
like
They
that.
both
Keep people on their toes.
start with MI.
There you go.
Miami. They take Chop Robinson in the first, Patrick Paul from Houston the second, which I thought was a reach. But what do I know? Their best pick was probably Muhammad Kamara, another edge player later on in the draft. What was he third, fourth, fifth round? I think actually. And then Malik Washington, decent wide receiver. I thought Kamara and Washington were going to go earlier, so they got good value there. That's probably why they're on your list because they certainly didn't make that list because of Patrick Paul,
Yeah.
the draft value list.
Yeah,
But I
they
know Mel Kiper, your guy, loved Muhammad Kamara from Colorado State. Loved him.
he likes their overall draft. He gave them a B. He says part of it's the salary cap crunch, losing so many people. Chop will only be great if he reaches the ceiling. That he wasn't necessarily even the best defender on his own team. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
you guys got him, Adisa Isaac.
And again, you were annoyed. You texted right after Jalen Wright was taken just because luxury pick. Like, really, you got all these holes,
Right.
and you're taking your 17th running back.
Who's exactly the same as your 16th.
Yep. That
But
doesn't make a lot of sense unless they're going to have him
but
return
A-Chain can't stay
kickoffs.
healthy. A-Chain can't stay healthy.
Well, I can't say he can't. He only has one season under his belt. But yes, if he has all the soft tissue stuff again this year, then I'm with you. That is then a trend.
All right. Now the real Minnesota. I like what they did. I don't like the players they got, if that makes sense. So I like that you trade up for your quarterback, even if it's only one spot. You got your guy and made sure Vegas and Denver didn't. And then they traded up for the edge player that they really wanted in Dallas
Yep.
Turner. Uh,
Which was
I
a
don't
steal at 17.
for other
I know you
people.
don't
Again,
love the
I
guy,
don't
but still at
right,
17, wow.
right. Again, I don't not my cup of tea, but I like that you had your guys and you went and you got them. Now they had
Yeah.
no other picks until the fourth round. But again, McCarthy and Turner, so many analysts out there had both of them in their top 8 players overall in the draft.
We did. We had him
And
in
they,
our top 8 in our mock draft.
yeah, well,
Well, we had
uh,
McCarthy 5 and
yeah,
we had Turner go at 8.
I just meant an overall talent for the draft, not
Yeah, yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
would go. I didn't have either one of them. Neither one of them would have been my top
This
10 as far
is
as
the one team that this entire draft class comes down to one person only. If that person does well, successful.
JJ.
If he doesn't, trash.
Sure,
And a
sure.
lot of people, yourself included, found this to be a stretch.
And you could say the same thing about the very next team, the New England Patriots. Drake May at 3. They couldn't really do anything else unless they went Marvin Harrison. And then, dude, okay, their Jalen Polk pick
Ugh,
was it the
I
fifth
was
pick of the
so
second round?
irritated.
Dude, I was going to say once again,
The
just like with
third
the
best
Penix
receiver on his own team, and then you take him about a round and a half
college
before
team
he should have
on
went.
his own
His college
college
team,
team.
yeah.
What I say to you? He was not even the best Jalen on his team.
Yeah, you did say that.
Jalen McMillan's another wide receiver on
It,
Washington.
it blew
It's
my
just
mind. Again, I thought that the whole Belichick thing was over of outsmarting yourself, taking guys a round and a half before they should go, but apparently not.
new regime, same thing. And I don't hate Jalen Polk as a player.
Me
I
either.
would,
He
I'd love
didn't
him.
belong going 37th overall.
I'd love him midway in the third round.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. A round and a half early.
Right.
This whole thing is a round and a half early. Even Drake May, in a normal year, he shouldn't go third.
Right. Right.
And I mean, he shouldn't go in the middle of the second round either. But this whole draft was just weird because this whole thing of you need a quarterback in this league, so we just stretch is just sort of destroyed the draft in general.
A lot of reaches for me there for New England.
And they took
Now,
Joe Milton the third too. Is he the next Kirk Cousins?
dude, that's the first thing I thought of when they drafted two
Yeah.
quarterbacks. I'm like, man, here we go. So, and why not? Because the quarterbacks, they have Jacoby Brissett, who's an aging veteran. But outside of that, Bailey Zappi, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Somebody else up there that's exactly like Bailey Zappi.
I got no
Not him
problem with
either.
it in the middle of the sixth round. It's nothing but dart throws at that point anyway.
Right. I liked the New Orleans draft. I didn't hate it. They didn't have a whole lot of draft capital, but I like the picks that they made. Their first four picks. Okay, you need an offensive tackle. They get Talise Fuaga, fantastic pick, love it. You needed it, and he's a great player. Then Kool-Aid McKinstry, who people had going in almost universally in the first round. They get him at the ninth pick of the second. Good for you guys. Then they take Spencer Rattler in the fifth. He's a
So
first quarterback, if
yeah,
I'm not
let's make it
mistaken.
clear to everyone that they didn't have a pick from the ninth and the second until the 15th of the fifth.
Correct. And they used that pick on a quarterback, which was the first quarterback taken since Bo Nix at
Yep.
12.
And everybody seems to hate because he definitely made some questionable decisions on that quarterback show.
When he was 17 years
I
old.
know, but 17's almost an
That's
adult.
silly. Oh,
He
dude,
should
are
have
you
known
kidding me?
better. I mean, he shot himself in the foot.
Anyway, it's a
I'm just
low
saying,
risk
he
pick.
dropped. He wouldn't have gone this low if it wasn't for that. Like
You're,
GMs across the league are saying, we were avoiding
right,
him like the plague.
which is
Cost himself
silly
a
to
lot of
me.
money.
But dude, he could be the quarterback of the future. He was the
He
number
could.
one quarterback prospect coming out. Caleb Williams sat the bench at Oklahoma whenever Spencer Rattler was
Yeah,
there. So I like that pick for them. And then Bub Means in the fifth. A lot of people had him going higher than the fifth round, wide receiver from Pittsburgh. So
I agree.
I
Yeah.
liked it. I thought it was decent
It
draft for
is a
them.
good draft. And Kool-Aid, the worst thing that could happen to him was that they found that Liz Frank fracture at the combine. It was great for every other team that wanted to watch him fall, because now they get him here midway through the second round.
New York Giants, Malik Neighbors at 6. You wide receiver may have been your biggest need, so
No
they
brainer.
didn't screw that up. Then they took safety Tyler Nubin, which is another smart pick because they just lost Xavier McKinney to Green Bay through free agency. And then they took Theo Johnson in the fourth, who has 99th percentile athleticism, tight end out of Penn State, because Darren Waller's probably hanging up the cleats
Yeah, I
this
like
year.
him more than I think a lot of other people do.
Well, they didn't use him. He only had, what, he had 380 receiving yards or something? It made no sense why Penn State's got this athletic freak on the field that the defense probably can't cover, and they don't throw him the
Runs
ball.
a 4.57,
Right.
fastest
At
of all tight ends.
like Jimmy Graham size. Yeah. So decent draft for the Giants.
I just
Um,
hope they can protect Danny Dimes because I don't think Danny Dimes is nearly as bad as people want to make him out to be. But man, if they can't protect him and he just gets his head ripped off again like last year, then guess what? Rest in peace, Malik Neighbors.
that's right. That's off to well until they get a QB next year.
Well, they thought
That's
they
maybe
had
they'll
one.
get Kirk
It's not
Cousins.
that easy, right? It's not that
Maybe
simple.
they'll trade Atlanta for Kirk Cousins since Atlanta's got the
But
QB
I
one.
think you should be happy. I don't think the Giants did anything that's going to make them any type of an issue for the Eagles.
No, I'm with you. The Jets, hats off to you, New York. Me and a lot of other people thought you'd make that flashy either wide receiver or Brock Bowers pick at 10 so you can win now, but you take Olu Fashanu. I think he was my number 2 tackle, I think, in this class. So I thought that was smart. And then they come and they take Malachi Corley. Did you listen to the phone call when they called Malachi Corley?
I did not.
They gave the GM started Joe Douglas, and he's like, dude, I can't. and he's cursing as he's talking to him. I can't wait to get you here. See, you're so angry and violent. I can't wait to see it on the field. Here's Robert Salah. And Salah gets on. He goes, dude, I can't wait to see you run over people and you're so angry. And then he gives it to wide receivers coach. And he starts losing his mind. He's like, let's go. I can't wait to see your angry runs. I mean, every single one of them used the word angry
Did you
when they were
see the
talking to him
stat
on the
that
phone.
we love, a Debo stat?
He's has the most yards after catch of
It was
any receiver in football over the last 2 years.
yes.
Is that the one you're going with?
Yeah, yeah, that's Debo. That's Debo. Throw it to him
Yeah,
anywhere, he might score. And
I
he
love
might
it.
truck a couple guys in the way. We're on the
I know
way.
Brees Hall, got hurt. What was it 2 years ago? But
Well,
drafting two running backs,
Brees
Braylon
Hall's going to
Allen.
be like number 2 pick in fantasy this year, 2 or 3.
Yeah, I thought two running backs was strange. I did like the Jordan Travis pick though. Quarterback from FSU coming back from an injury. You don't need him. You got Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I like that pick. Let him sit for a while. See what you got in him. I think it was like a 6th round pick.
And that's the thing, maybe he won't sit. A-Rod isn't getting any younger. You never know. He's one step away from another season-ending injury. I love Malachi Corley, though. I love that pick.
Yeah. Yep. I went back and I watched some film on him, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago or so.
Yeah.
And yeah, it made me like him a lot more. All right. My Eagles. Somehow they stayed put at 22. I thought if you wanted Mitchell, Quinion Mitchell, or Terrion or either of the corners, you're gonna have to trade up, 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 up. They didn't. I mean, some people had the Falcons taking
Apparently,
Mitchell
nobody in the
or
NFL
Darnold
cares
at 18.
about defense anymore.
Yeah, so odd, man. Free falling. Then the second round, comes up, and why would Washington trade with Philly? Philly has done Washington dirty on every trade I can think of
It doesn't make a
over the
lot of sense.
course of history, but Washington still goes for it. And they take Cooper to Gene with pick 40. This guy was going from 20 to 25 in almost every single mock draft I looked at. So
You think he'll
I
play
was
corner for 2 or 3 years and then move to safety?
maybe, sure. Or do any of it. He could anything that you want him to
Yeah,
do.
he's a playmaker.
Jalix Hunt was their 3rd round pick. You know this already because I told you cool story about Jalix. I coached his sister in track and field whenever I was a head track coach in Maryland. She went to my high school. Jalix would come to practice sometimes and run with us. So I got to work with him a little bit and talk to him when he was like 10 years old. And at the time, he ended up being, I don't know if it was the Maryland State AAU track and field decathlon champ, or he might have been the national champ. I mean, this kid was so talented in track and field. And I saw a picture of him as his draft process going, like at the combine.
Yeah.
Dude, I knew him when he was 10, little scrawny Jalix Hunt, and now he's 6'5",
6'4",
250.
252.
He's a monster. But cool for him, man. I'm trying to get in touch with his family to congratulate him. So I'm excited about that.
The funny thing
But you,
is I'll be honest, I had a bunch of when he got drafted, all kinds of people were posting online from Hagerstown. Like, you actually knew the kid. Other people posted like, you know, they grew up with him and they've never known the kid in their life. He could walk past their house, they wouldn't know who he was.
he grew
But
up in Florida. They
nonetheless,
they moved soon after that to Florida, if my
yeah, they
memory
weren't
serves.
here long. Yeah. But the school, Houston Christian, I had never even heard of. That's pretty
Yeah.
hardcore for a dude to go as early as he did. I mean, end of the 3rd round from a school that majority of human beings had never even heard of.
Not a ton of production, but flashed some serious
Yeah.
athletic traits, something they can work with. Um, Will Shipley was a little confusing for me, the running back from Clemson in the 4th round. We got Saquon Barkley, but I think that was kind of like this is a really solid player right here. We don't want him to dip any farther. The feel good story, they got Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Obviously, they drafted the senior in the late 90s. I think it was like 98 or something. They drafted his dad. So that's a cool story. Do you know anything about the receiver in the, what was it, 6th round? They drafted Johnny Wilson? Because if
Never
not,
heard
you're
of
going
him.
to love it. Dude, he's 6'6, 230.
Oh,
You
yes, he
love
is.
big receivers.
I do love them especially in the
Yes.
red zone.
Yeah, Florida State, 6'6, 230.
Oh, and it even says they can move him to tight end if need be. Obviously.
I figured you'd
Actually,
like
it's
that.
funny you said because I remember reading this the other day when I looked through their whole thing. I read about each guy. Yeah, you never know.
And that's Mel Kiper's. He gave the Eagles an A as well, right? That's
Yes,
Arizona and Philly.
they were only two teams. Them and Philly were the only ones he gave an A. There were some
Yep.
other A minuses, but they were the only straight up A's, and it was great, dude. I knew how excited you were because usually during the draft I can see the steam from your ears coming through my
Yeah.
freaking phone. This one you were excited, but of course we'll tell
Yeah.
everybody your worries because since the
Right.
draft went so well, you're pretty sure these three of these guys will tear their ACLs in camp.
Right. It can't be this good. I just listen. I learned my lesson with the dream team. I allowed
Yeah.
my excitement to overtake me when they signed Vince Young and Nam
Oh
the
yeah.
Asamoah and all that. Yeah, that
But
didn't
dude,
work out.
they like I said earlier, them in Detroit, the one thing they needed, they made sure they addressed it. They sure as hell did.
Yep.
And I think this could completely change the dynamic. And the whole thing of losing 8 of your last 9 games is probably over, or whatever it was, 6 of their last 7. Embarrassing was the end of
We
last
don't.
season for the Eagles.
We don't. We
To be
don't. We
honest,
don't.
it was straight. They were getting blown out by teams that shouldn't even be in the game.
We don't talk about that.
Well, it's over
Uh,
with now. But I
what I
think
will.
this is a step in the right direction.
Yes,
These
and
guys are going to be there for years.
right, and unfortunately for you, the Pittsburgh Steelers had
Oh God,
another very
maybe
typical
yeah,
Steelers draft.
maybe the
Nothing
best.
flashy. Nothing flashy. Unbelievably solid. Troy Fatanu, Zach Frazier, right there. Those two guys might win them 2 games this
You're
year.
getting the guys that are
That-
like number
yes.
1, 2, 3 at their both of them at their position. The one thing they needed most.
And I don't like Roman Wilson. He is Deontay Johnson, who
Yeah,
they traded away to Carolina. I
they
mean, they're the
certainly did.
same size, almost to the pound, everything. And then they get linebacker Peyton Wilson, who some people are like, if a linebacker goes in the first round, it'll be Wilson.
Yes, I've seen him
That's
number
what they
one on
say.
a lot of people's linebacker board.
NC State. I mean, this dude. What did he work out with Luke Kuechly? I think. I don't know,
That I
man.
don't know.
Injuries is why he fell, I'm sure. But my gosh, what a pick!
Yeah, so
It,
now all of a sudden you've got him, and on top of it all, they stole
Patrick
Patrick
Queen.
Queen from us.
I
So
know.
they got exponentially better.
Yep, I
Lucky
agree.
for us, Arthur Smith is going to be
Gonna
their
ruin it.
offensive coordinator.
That's true. Run
So
defense.
it should still be fairly easy to beat them because he is hands down the worst offense coordinator in the NFL. But boy, do they have a star-studded cast now.
They certainly do. Uh, there were probably, I don't know, only 2 picks, I think, and their first two actually for Seattle. Byron Murphy, defensive tackle, filled a big need for them. And then Christian Haynes, I thought he would go earlier. I thought he might go in the second round.
I've
Offensive
seen
lineman from
a
UConn.
lot of people have him as their number one guard,
Yeah,
but
he's
went middle of the
yeah,
third round.
very solid player. I thought he'd go earlier, but other than that, kind of nothing too exciting there for Seattle. And the same with San Francisco too. Now they don't need many holes there. Played for the Super Bowl last year, but I love
There we go.
Ricky Pearsall
There we go.
in the first round, buddy.
That's one of
Oh
the
gosh.
stupidest things I've ever seen
What a dream for me. What
for
a
you, but
dream.
yeah, it made no sense. I don't get it at all.
I prefer that one over Isaac Guerendo in the fourth round. I mean, I know Christian McCaffrey's not going to play forever, but it's like Mike Shanahan has to draft a mid-round running back
Well,
somewhere from the third to the fifth round. His head will explode if he doesn't take a running back.
he went around where he was supposed to go, so it's not like it was
Yeah,
some crazy stretch. But
I know, I agree.
and
It's
Elijah
just
Mitchell, you can't count on him. Every time CMC's hurt, Elijah Mitchell doesn't come in because he's already hurt anyway.
you know what? Maybe Guerendo was the best pick. Now that you bring it up.
Yeah, so you gotta have a body out there because you can't ever count on Mitchell to be healthy.
That dude, he's like I talked about him at right after the combine. I put a little thing out there on the Facebook page about Guarendo's. Who's at like 6'1", something like 220, 225, around a 4'3",
Yeah.
340, I think it was. Something crazy. Crazy.
I think Lynch is really caught up in the Shanahanigans now because I think Shanahanigans he drafts people just to piss people like us off.
You might be right.
That's it. That's the
And
only reason he does
especially
it. He
when it
pisses
works
off
out.
just because he can. And he sits there and tells everybody how smart he is in this. But guess what? Once again, zero
There
Super
were Super
Bowls.
Bowls. You're right. Tampa Bay. Another one of those solid but not spectacular drafts.
How did Graham Barton's fall so far?
I know they had a need at interior offensive line, edge, safety, wide receiver. They addressed it. They addressed all those positions in the draft. So
They did. I think this is a. I love it. And you
yep.
got McMillan at the end of the third. I I don't
Yeah.
understand some of these teams. It's just mind-blowing.
You,
I think this
you
is
mean the
great.
good Jalen?
They've got a great one too. They've got another great wide receiver room, right? How could Baker
Oh,
Mayfield fail with these guys?
you know who I forgot they drafted? Bucky Irving, who I really liked.
They sure did.
They got him at the end of the fourth. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's about where he should have went.
On ESPN, if you look at if you just click on their like the draft results, they have the number one pick, Ricky Pearsall. They have the video of that unbelievable catch. Like that's what they use for him for his
Cool.
little draft profile
Oh
thing.
yes, God, that is just sick.
What yes, what a catch.
That draft capital over expectation, the Mendoza line, like the middle, or not really the actual sort of median line. Tampa Bay is the team that everybody's either above or below as far as
Oh,
they hit the line.
that's the standard.
Yep.
Okay, I can see that.
Oh yeah, this is a good
Tennessee,
draft. They did what Atlanta should have done. Meet your needs so you can crush all these awful teams
yeah.
instead of
Oh, in
taking
that division,
luxury
yes.
picks when you're in no place to have any luxury.
Oh man, it's like buying that super nice bottle of bourbon when you can't pay your rent.
Yes, it makes no freaking sense. It's so
What are you doing?
stupid.
Oh my
Speaking of which,
gosh.
let's go to Tennessee.
Gonna get evicted, but you got a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle, so that's good.
Ah,
Yeah, I thought it was surprising, and I
they're getting
know,
terrible grades from everybody. Mel gave
well,
him a C plus.
but Mel Kiper loves J.C. Latham. He called J.C. Latham going that high.
He
Then
did,
Tavondre
but
Sweat at 206. We thought you said last
yeah,
week this guy's going in the third round, maybe. I agreed with you.
yeah. But
206.
but even Mel's saying he thought they could have traded down and still got Latham because nobody else wanted him.
Mel did. He was all over it.
I'm just telling you, Mel, I'm reading it right here. It seems
Yeah, I
like
don't get it.
Tennessee panicked at least a little bit in selecting JC Latham number 7. I would have thought they could trade down and still get him.
Cedric Gray from linebacker from North Carolina is a solid player, but man, I
What
don't know.
about your boy Sweat, who in all mocks was falling, 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 and these guys take him as though he's not in some trouble.
He's not my guy. I don't even like him. I can't do that dumb off the field stuff.
No, you're not
My
big
God.
on character issues. Nor am I.
All right. Washington, dude, I thought they hit a home run, man.
Yes, they
And I didn't
did.
like it. I didn't like it one bit, but they got, especially in the first two rounds. Jaden Daniels, my QB1. Then the second round rolls in, and they get Johnny Newton, my best defensive tackle. I already mentioned Mike Sanders still a solid, very solid corner from Michigan, who apparently off the field, he is a gem, a leader in the locker room. They asked a bunch of Michigan players who the true captain of the team was on that national title
Yep.
run, and almost everybody said him. They didn't say
That's
McCarthy.
that's pretty good because it's one thing when some of our people in the world, like Cam Newton, says that about himself.
Oh, he's a
But then you
moron.
have your teammates and pretty much unanimously pick you. That's
Yeah.
intense. That's
They get
respect.
Ben Sinnott, tight end, which was a need for them, and he's probably the second or third best tight end in a draft after Brock Bowers. They
Yeah,
get Luke
because what's his name's
McCaffrey,
probably done. Here's the dude that's always hurt in Washington.
Jordan. My gosh, we're doing terrible with names here.
I know because
Jordan.
there's too much
Something
stuff
Jordan.
going on in our heads.
I don't think of Jordan Davis.
Logan Thomas. It's Logan
Logan Thomas.
Thomas.
That's it.
There's
And
talk that
close to
he could go, and they do have. Well, actually, he might already be going, and Zach Ertz is there. He's washed up.
talk to me about Luke McCaffrey, your boy.
Oh yeah, that was my bold thing. I know he's still a little raw and all, but way too early, unbelievably, almost stupidly bold prediction is that he will lead Washington in receptions, not yards, not touchdowns, but he will lead them in receptions. He will
I
be
did
a first down machine.
I did think that they would try to shore up the edge position earlier in the draft. They didn't take an edge until their last pick in the seventh
JJB,
round.
which I
Javante Jean
think is a
Baptiste.
steal in the 7th round.
I agree. I don't know that he's going to come out and start week 1. I thought they kind of needed a player like that, but definitely a value there where they got him.
You could make the argument that this draft for such an awful team is the draft that would have the
Foundational.
biggest impact on a team.
Yes.
I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs
Yep.
because they have such a huge mountain to climb because they're so awful. But boy, they hit it. They hit it.
On the offseason, they got high character veterans. They got high character rookies.
It's a
They're
whole
changing
new
the
thing
culture there
there.
in
Whole
Washington.
new
Yeah.
thing there. Yep. And I'm with you. Just like I'm worried about Pittsburgh's draft, I'd be worried about this draft. Maybe not this year, but
I don't like it.
3 years, this
I
might
don't
be
like
the
it.
team to beat in that division.
I don't like it. Not one bit. I hate it. I hate everything about it. All right. Anything else for you, sir?
Not as far as the draft goes. Most of it went how we thought. We had we had a lot of guys in the first round. That's what we were hoping for. That not necessarily the teams, but we knew
Mhm.
who would go in the first round. There was a couple of outliers. The Penix thing screwed up the whole draft.
Mhm.
This whole offensive thing. This is going to resonate for years.
I
That
love that we got
defensive
Leggett.
players ended up on teams they shouldn't have.
I love that I talked you into doing Leggett the last pick of the first round in our mock draft.
What do you mean you talked me into it? I
Yeah,
wanted
you
to do
didn't
it
want to
all
do it.
along.
You didn't want it. You weren't
No,
gonna.
I wanted to, but we were trying to do that what we thought they would do. And I really didn't necessarily think that teams would buy into it. Maybe they listened to us and realized that we were brilliant.
Right guy, right pick, wrong team. I'll take it.
Why is he necessarily the wrong team?
In our mock draft.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah. We had him going to KC, didn't we?
That's correct.
Oh my
Boy,
Lord, that would have been
good.
oh
Over Xavier. They had a
wow.
chance. They could have done it. They took the wrong Xavier. Maybe they got the card wrong. Maybe they're like,
Maybe,
oh yeah, we need that
maybe.
Xavier guy. And
Because
somebody wrote down
because
Worthy.
Goodell announced at least 4 or 5 of the names wrong in round one. You'd think he'd have somebody there, some guy in the league that they pay literally just to help him learn how to pronunciate the names correctly, so he doesn't look like a total fool.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
dude's
right. If he
getting paid
doesn't
like $56 million a year. You think you could learn 32 guys' names like Dijon and Etienne and the others?
right. Yep. Okay.
I don't know.
That's it.
I
I'm
like
getting out
it.
of here.
We'll see where this goes. Like Andrew Herb said, on paper, some of these look great, some don't. 5 years from now, it might be completely flip-flopped.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Check us out on Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. Get your Bell Rung Football podcast. He's Kevin. I'm Bobby. See you all in a week.
See you guys.